I love the way this shit smells. Grand Rise, Divine Rise, blessed be to your day. May it be everything that you desire to boost that value and the authenticity of you. Synchronicity. Today's message. I'm grown, not authentic. That's the title. It's going to be a very impactful one. So we're going to allow ourselves to get it filled up real quick. Let the space fill. It's going to be one of those ones. Again, I'm going to start with the little pre. The nights. Wednesday night, we do Friday night. Wednesday night, God Hour show. Live readings. And tonight's topic, we're going to be getting into emotional advances. We're going to be getting into emotional advances. If you haven't tuned into the God Hour show, the God Hour podcast, this week's episode, we got into memes and things. We got into memes and things, removing the catalysts that keep our identity fed to get to who we are, removing the subliminal martyr complex, addressing the subliminal martyr complex, addressing the premature posts or the reactions. And throughout the week, we get deep into these aspects of these emotional catalysts. Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have class, Godical Alchemist, my YouTube channel, where we're going to be getting into the end of the beginning, or the anchors to our authenticity, understanding the anchoring to our shadows. That's what we're getting into this Friday. Once again, tonight we're getting into emotional advances, understanding emotional advances. A lot of times we go into spaces with ourselves where we sign this temporary contract based on our expectations that we've been getting to all week. We sign this 360 deal to get things to agree to a set of our behaviors to feed our emotions. So we're going to get into emotional advances tonight. But before we get in that tonight, I wanted to get into I'm grown, not authentic. I'm grown, not authentic. The difference between healthy habits and habitual reaction. The difference between healthy habits and habitual reaction. Every time that you say that you're grown, every time that you say that you're grown, I just looked at a post that was in Gods and Masters. Every time that you say that you're grown, something's unmatched, nobody can handle you, you're real, that's what people don't like about you. Every time you say something under the term I'm grown, and you don't add that ing, every time you do something based on I'm grown and don't add that ing, I know nothing. I need to generate. I'm growing. Therefore, I need that ing is I need to generate. I need to generate. I need to germinate. That's what that ing at the end of your growing, you're knowing, you're learning, you're applying. That's what that ing at the end of it's for. That little prefix. That's that I need to germinate. That means I need to go into this space and learn some more aspects of myself. That's why we put the title, I'm grown, therefore I'm not authentic. Every time that you say some of these keys, it gives fuel to that identity. There's a difference between, remember yesterday we talked about the aspects of your expectations create exemptions that keep you away from accountability. That's the same thought process when you keep saying that you're grown. You give yourself expectations in the external aspect of yourself, and then you'll give yourself, it forms exemptions that keep you away from taking accountability for yourself automatically. So now we're going to look at healthy habits versus habitual reaction. I remember a long time for myself that simply doing things, and I talked about this in the podcast, I remember doing things simply because I had the day off or I had some time. In order for me to not take accountability in my time, a lot of times I was like, we've all done that shit. You'll go do some things. You'll sit there and do some things. You'll do some things to pop some things off simply to fill up the space that you haven't defined based on you being grown. Remember, you got to live. Remember, whatever you say, you got to live by that shit. So every time so you're saying that you're grown in this aspect, me saying that I was grown, me saying that I was this and that, maintaining this aspect of this identity. Every time that I did this, not really thinking about it, I would set myself up to be challenged by the universe, challenged by my higher self. Grand rising, grand rising. I would challenge myself to be set up to be challenged by something, because that's what you're doing. Whenever you're saying you're grown, whenever you're saying that you're unmatched, whenever you're saying that, you're setting yourself up. Your higher self literally is going to say, okay, because you saying that aspect, okay, cool, now it's time to grow. You're saying that you perfected and learned everything in that space. You said you've put everything in that space, that you said you mastered everything into that space. That means your humility needs to be checked. That means your integrity needs to be checked. Remember, your humility, I'm always saying that your humility, your integrity, your purpose, your passion is only found in the dark. It's only found in your darkness. It's maintained. Whatever you saying that you perfected is only projected into the light. So if you're not dealing with those, when we talk about these shadows and these things you got to get into, if I'm not dealing with those things internally, therefore, yeah, I'm going to say that I'm grown. I'm always going to say that I'm independent, because I remember when I was younger, what I was stuck in inside of that space. I'm always going to live by some external creed that's only reflected based on my unseen. Remember, we always talking about that unseen. Your unseen creates your space. The more that you got repressed, the heavier. Think about it like this. The more you feel oppressed, the more you feel like you got to struggle, the more you feel like you relapsing and you angry, you frustrated, the more you have repressed, the more you feel repressed, the angrier you feel. The more you have repressed, the more oppressed you're going to feel. The more you have repressed and you're not dealing with, the more you're going to feel like you got to struggle. Because you got to live up to what you got repressed. That's what's creating your space. That's when you have the habitual reaction. A lot of us, I remember suffering from, a lot of times with my job, how I worked, how I was living, it was always habitual reaction. Somebody said something, challenged me, felt disrespected, habitual reaction. I always reacted the same way or used the same emotional paraphrasing. Always pulling from the same space. Ain't nobody about to disrespect me. Ain't nobody about to shoot me down. Ain't nobody going to reject me. Ain't no one going to avoid me. You can't avoid me. I'm here in the space. I allow that inner child, my adolescent wounds. I allowed those things to hit the surface, and they were speaking out. They would take center stage in that space. So then, remember, we talked about that before. When you're getting into the aspects of your emotional development, and your emotional development is stuck wherever everything that happened in that emotional moment, that everything from the no that you got hit on, that no that you got hit with when you were little, that too many yeses, too many no's, that traumatic event experience, all of those aspects feed around that same emotional catalyst. That's what remember, everything down here is cycling over and over and over again. So when you get upset, think about it like this. That moment that traumatic event happened, there were things that led up to that, and there were things that fed that. Remember, we broke that down. I broke it down in the podcast that every relationship that you have, friendship, job, whatever, They're all synonymous to the same thought process. In the first 6 months of your relationship, just like the first 6 months of your job, it's based on your experience. You got to prove your experience. After you've proven your experience to a certain point, then you got a level of observation. Because remember, when you first got that job, because you needed some money, when you first got that job and you needed some money, you didn't think about you saw everything in there that you weren't going to deal with. You probably said it to yourself, I'm just here to go to work. I'm just here to go to work, go home. I'm just here to go to work and go home. So you said that to everything that you said in there. So remember, you said that in there. That's the same space as saying that you're grown and you're not growing. Same thought process. Remember, you got to understand these underlining paraphrases that connect that energy. So when you came into the moment of observation, when you wanted to start doing your own thing, you were trying to find yourself, similar to when you were little, because you just were repeating that same cycle. When you were in the moment of observation, now whenever you were upset, when you were mad, those same things that you experienced, now you're observing in that space. So now somebody at your job want to square up with you. Now in your relationship, motherfucker want to square up with you. They were brought into that space to do that originally anyway. You just weren't open enough to see it. You were aware, you saw it, but you weren't aware of it. Remember, we always talk about that difference between you being able to see and then you having that awareness. The last job that I held, when I started really doing my internal work and I was becoming more aware and I started making decisions based on my awareness for me to grow, for my growing, for my going forward, I was a lot less scared. I was a lot less fearful to say what I was going to say. I remember 2019, February 14, 2019 is when I did the Hardest Mind lecture on my YouTube channel. I remember it was Valentine's Day. And they were like, yo, you can't get off at 8. You can't get off. And my boss was like, the only way you gonna get off is if you talk to the area director. I was like, all right, cool. Let me get the area director's number. I already had a relationship with the area director. My new GM didn't know that. I text my area director. She called me back, hit me on the phone. I was like, yeah, I made this request last year. I understand it's Valentine's Day. I can work in the AM. I have things planned that I've already paid for. I can't retract it now. Not unless you guys are going to pay me the 2 G's that I just spent on this weekend of this trip for myself and back in that time. I remember my area director said, okay. That's all my area director said was okay. I went to work on Valentine's Day, showed up early. My GM looked at me with this disgruntled look on her face and was like, just let me know when it's time. Just let me know when it's time for you to leave. That's all she could say. Because I assessed, this is a reflection of me assessing and setting the tone based on knowing my authentic self. I knew the authenticity in what I said. Everybody else was coming because everybody else in that same space, based on observation, they'll use the same exact excuses. They were based on this. They were based on some other shit, some external thing, feeding into the narrative that was based on emotion. I came to them straight to the point with what I needed to say in that space. Whether either I was going to get a yes or a no. I was prepared for the no, and I was prepared for the yes. This is when you understanding the aspects of your emotional catalyst, and you're growing, and you having healthy habits. In your healthy habits. I already built up to that point of understanding myself, these healthy habits that I already had maintained. Since I was not based in habitual reaction, it wasn't based in the fears of my emotions. That means when it came time, when they asked me, I didn't get jittery. Now before, let me take you back to like 2009. Let me take it back to like 2000. Let me take you back to 2008, 2009. I had a similar situation, asking for some time off. I was moving in fear, so I was like, I was moving in fear, And I was like, I'm going to ask before I set up. I'm going to ask before I set up. I'm going to ask before I set the table. I remember I was like, yo, so I need these days off because I plan on going on vacation around this time. Boss looked at me and was like, well, I need you to work that day. I was like, I can either work the morning or night. I can't work both. Me being grown in that space, I was like, me being grown in that space, it was arrogance. I was like, look, like I'm here every single day and all these things. Everything that I did based in the past. They were like, that's nice, you did all that shit in the past, but we talking about right now. Got mad, got upset. I'm working the entire shift, upset, mad at my job, mad at them that day. So now I'm seeing everything negative. Peace. I'm seeing everything negative. Motherfuckers is walking out before me. People ain't coming to work. All of these aspects. I'm seeing everything through the negative aspect. Everything through the negative. So I'm watching people leave. I'm watching people not do no work. Those people were always there not doing any work. Those people always had issues. Those people always had problems. Those people always had all that bullshit going on. What was different between the day was I was sitting in the emotion. I was sitting in my emotions. I was sitting in my emotions, deflecting like a motherfucker. Got through the shift, something that I had to learn from. Where did that come from? It came from every time, and then understanding these correspondings to that aspect, I had to go back further and really look at where I learned that from. My voice was still shaky in a lot of situations. Where did I learn? Where was my voice first shaking? I was afraid to speak up on my behalf. Speaking in a dialogue that was not based in emotion. I learned it from childhood wounds. I learned the same thing from the same childhood wounds. Back in those moments in time where my emotional development was stifled. So my mental development was stifled. So it didn't matter what I looked like on the surface or the expectations that I built based on the surface. I still was only doing it based on trying to be the 12-year-old. I was still trying to do it based on being 11, being 8, being in those situations. My mind was still back there when I was 8 years old. So my emotions was back there when I was like back in the 8-year-old. So no matter what, me in 2009, I want to say I was like 24, 25 or some of that, run around that time. So it didn't matter what I was in that current state. I was dependent upon that identity was the necessity that fed my emotional projections. My identity fed my emotional projections. Therefore, in every space that I went into, and that's what we're going to get into tonight, during the God Hour show, it was an emotional advance. You keep taking out these emotional advances on your soul contract. You keep getting into these relationships. You come into these relationships with your expectations. That's literally you coming with a 360 deal to the table when you're supposed to be assessing your soul contract. You have, okay, this is my list of exceptions. I do this and I do this and I do this and I do this and I can do this and I can do this. Okay, what do you expect to get from that? Some type of emotional filler to fill that space. So the only way you're going to keep cleaning, the only way you keep cleaning the crib, the only way you're going to keep cooking dinner, the only way you're going to keep doing laundry, the only way you're going to keep paying the bills and all this other shit that you got made up in your mind, and the only way you're going to stay in that behavior is why? Because of those expectations. This is the only way that I'm going to stay in here. Now you set up exemptions. Now you're not taking accountability when them exemptions don't work out. You keep trying to put everything into that space based on that 360 deal. That way when you go into the relationship, when you leave the relationship, you ain't got no accountability. You just keep signing 360 deals. Every relationship, every friendship that you have is a 360 deal. You go in there with expectations, you get what you need to get out of there, but when it comes time to actually learn and move forward, the experiences in that space, the things that you learn, Since you was in a 360 deal type contract that you took into that space, now you in every relationship talking about, see, motherfuckers don't understand my realness. Motherfuckers don't understand that I'm grown. I'm a grown woman. I'm a grown man. I'm grown. I do grown people shit. All right. You say that you grown and you keep meeting children. What? And now you upset that every nigga that you was with and every chick that came into your life was childish as fuck. Why does it bother you that they were childish? Because I'm grown. We got to be grown. We got to be adults. Yes, that's a part of it. But every time that you in that space and you keep meeting childish individuals, maybe it's telling you that you need to get in contact with your inner child. Maybe it's time that you need to come in contact with your inner child. So you mad because he's sitting there playing video games all day. This motherfucker is, whether he's in a avoidance, separation, whatever it is, they're in contact with their inner child in some way, shape, or form. You mad because shorty get mad and pout and get mad when she don't get what she want, whether it's unconscious or consciously, or whether they know they doing it or not. They're in contact with their inner child. They're showing you their inner child. The way that if you're bothered by it, it's something that you got to learn. Instead of you went into the space trying to control it based on how your father tried to control it, your mother tried to control it, going further and further and further back. You got to go into these spaces ready to learn. My playing partner Donia, she said, "What if she said it in a live? She actually said it. She stated it in class Friday, and then she said it in a live. She was like, what if you went into every space and you introduced yourself as, hi, my name is, and I have nothing to offer you. The only thing that I can bring to the table is that I'm ready to share this experience with you. Think about the dynamic of every relationship that you ever get in when you go into a space like that. That's what Bobby Hemming was talking about in the Metaphysics of Love. Remember when Bobby Hemming was talking about in the Metaphysics of Love? I'll put the link up later. When you look at the Metaphysics of Love, and he was like, you got to go in there with the love that you have for a child, somebody that cannot do anything for you. That's the ultimate deferring of all of your expectations. Every time you go into a space with those expectations, it feeds you being grown. It feeds you being grown. You're grown, not authentic. Every time that you say that you're grown, something's going to test it so you can become into your authentic self. I said it before a while back, like I think earlier last year. I was like, how real is your image if it can be shown to you on television every single day? How real is your image if it can be shown to you every single day? How real is your wokeness if they can make the sequel to Undercover Brother and make Undercover Brother 2 and talk about they got some super woke juice? How real is how real are you for real if they can keep cloning it? If they can just keep making mass productions of it? Go look at Pootie Tang. Go look at Pootie Tang with another good one. Signed that whole damn contract and they had like multiple versions of Pootie Tang going out selling some bullshit. The moral or the amorality of the story is step out of that shit. That ain't you. That was you based on trying to stay safe. It's time to break out of that comfort zone. It's time to tap in. It's time to step out of the habitual reaction. You feel that if I'm going into every space that I go into and I gotta prove that I'm the realest in the space or I'm always speaking on some shit, 9 times out of 10 I had to realize that as much as I said I didn't like drama, or as much as you say you don't like drama, but you always seem to be in situations that are drama filled, in some way, shape, or form you feed it from that drama. The emotional catalyst that is that drama feeds your anger, feeds your frustration, a reason for you to stay mad, reason for you to stay based in fear. You keep going to your homegirls, and your homegirls keep doing stupid shit all the time, and it keeps you in a reason to stay frustrated. You looking at your homeboys and you wonder why they running around doing the same shit all the time. It keeps you a reason to stay frustrated. It keeps you a reason to stay in your separation anxiety. It takes a reason to stay in your abandonment issues, your rejection wounds. It keeps you in that space. That's what you keep doing with that emotional advance. That's what you keep doing when you keep posting, I'm going to post this, and then everybody going to feed off because everybody going to agree to it. Okay, that's nice. When are you going to become authentic in yourself and how you move forward? Your energy speaks before you even walk into the room. So if you're tired by the time you leave a room, somewhere in that space, you want to be in your authentic self. Say that one more time. One more time. Something that I had to learn, something that we all have to learn. You go into a space and you're always more tired than when you went in, than when you come out. 9 times out of 10, honesty, reflect to ourselves, reflect an assessment. That means I was trying to maintain an identity more than I was trying to allow my energy to show my energy and my emotional intelligence to give me the keys to my authenticity. Your energy speaks for you when you walk into a room. The only time that I have to make a certain post, every time I make posts, is based on an educational standard. It's based on something that I self-assess with myself. Everything's going to change in your frequency when you start. Everything changes in your space when you start moving in that light. You can tell when people get stifled in a certain point because they keep bringing up the same point instead of becoming humble to the learning aspect. That's your authenticity with yourself. I am not grown. I am still growing. I'm over 90 billion years old. I'm over 90 billion years old. I'm over 12 cycles strong. This is my last cycle down here. Know it. Got the confirmation for it. I know this is my last cycle down here. That's why I'm in the position that I'm in. Authentic. Your authentic self to yourself. But you got to assess those wounds. You got to assess those wounds. If you still getting angry, that means you still getting angry and frustrated, you got some wounds to assess. It's not about avoiding the frustration, avoiding the anger, avoiding the fear-based narratives. It's about understanding what they are so you can transmute them. That way, when you go into a space, what do you think transmutation is? It's the learning and applying of that energy in that same space. Once you understand the trigger, then you learn how to transmute, then you find no need for that space. Those are the steps. Once I acknowledge the trigger and I accept the energy and I go through the apology in the forgiveness process and the thanking process, I no longer need that space. The only time when you saying you mad at something or in fear of it is 9 times out of 10, you still need it. That's why I always say, especially when we get into shadow work consultations, the first thing you got to accept is, hey, guess what? I benefited from my trauma. Yeah, I got my lapis azul on, so the voice is really strong. I benefited from my trauma. I benefited from that traumatic event. I benefited from that traumatic experience. I thank everything that came in I like to thank myself for everything that I've been through into that space because it made me a stronger and better me. It broke me out of my comfort zone. It broke me out of my comfort zone. We all in here, Lappy's getting in this building all day. But yeah, I desire you to be the best. As I said in the opening, God Hour Podcast is out now. This week's is Means and Kings, available on 8 major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Breaker, Podbean, Pod Addict, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Tonight, we're going to be getting into emotional advances, understanding these aspects of the contracts, emotional advances, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to get a reading, that's some of the best times. Your first time tapping in and you want to get a reading, best time to get a reading because I haven't met a discounted price. 1 card is $333, 3 cards is $777, and a 5 card reading is $15.15. You can't beat those deals. But I desire you to be the best. If you want to go further, you ready to go further, you ready to go deeper, ready to go deeper, hit me up in the inbox for that shadow work consultation or more personalized reading. I desire you to be the fucking best. I desire myself to be the best, so I naturally desire everyone around me to become the best. I remove the attachments. I allow myself to come into the space to assess the attachments that were based on me being stuck in an identity of being grown, to come into my authentic self. I allow myself to be assessed and be triggered by my attachments so I can come into my connections. I desire you to be the best. Be fucking great. I love you. We love us. I'll see y'all tonight. Ashe.